7 more rounds of an NFL mock draft. Today, it's the Houston Texans. Let's jump into it. I'm Cody Carpentier with the Draft Ranking Show every single morning, 7 a.m. Eastern Time here on YouTube and on a podcast feed wherever you get your podcast. Just type in the Draft Rankings Show and it'll tap in. Less than 10 minutes every single day. We got you for everything NFL draft, everything fantasy football, everything rankings and football. Put those two words together. We got you. All right, let's jump into it. Houston Texans today for this mock draft in particular. Fix my screen. If you're watching here on YouTube, you can follow along. If you're on podcast, I'll keep you informed with the pick-by-pick analysis. The Houston Texans have picked 25, 58, 79, and 89. 79 they got from the Dolphins. They have 166 from Buffalo, 236 from Denver, and 241 in the 7th round. So we got 7 picks to get through, and we got about 9 minutes to get under that 10-minute mark. The Houston Texans have been rather busy in free agency, losing guys like Laramie Tunsil, shipping off Kenyon Green. Quite frankly, the experiment didn't quite work out in Houston. So they add Sheldon Rankins on the defensive line. They trade for C.J. Gardner-Johnson, who they traded Kenyon Green to Philadelphia for. They add Ronald Darby in free agency, a defensive back that I think is a good depth piece, speed guy out of Florida State. It's a borderline 10-year vet now at this point. Receiver, Christian Kirk steps in where Stephon Diggs exits. I think that's a good value on Christian Kirk, guy that they were going to cut. They end up trading for from the Jacksonville Jaguars. Tank Dell's expected to miss the season, so wide receiver poses opportunity. Cam Robinson was signed from the Vikings. He was in Jacksonville just a year ago, goes to the Vikings midseason to replace Christian Darrisaw. He's currently plugged in at left tackle. They also add Laken Tomlinson, who was in Seattle last year, and trade for Ed Ingram from Minnesota, who was one of the worst interior linemen in the NFL last year, defending pass rush. So not great, bub, but we got some things to target for Houston, including receiver, guard, probably go D-line and look at tackle, a few spots here. But let's jump into this mock. Let's get this damn thing going so we get in and out before the 10-minute mark expires. Start the draft. We're using the PFF mock draft tool, and here we are at selection 25. We see the last couple of picks. Josh Simmons nearly falls to us at 25 here from Ohio State. He goes to the Vikings at 24. Tyler Booker, the guard from Bama, goes to the Packers at 23. Mecca Igbuka, Omari Hampton, Matthew Golden. A lot of guys that we could have been targeting fall just before us. All right, so let's plug in receiver. Let's plug in tackle. And let's plug in guard and just see what kind of pops up. Kelvin Banks. This is a runaway. I'm taking Kelvin Banks here. I'll talk to you guys through who's available. Kelvin Banks, tackle from Texas, left tackle. He plugs directly into that left tackle spot, allows Cam Robinson to kind of not have to be a complete focal jump in, where Cam Robinson, we've seen him go up and down the last couple of years. Gray Zabel of North Dakota State's also available. Luther Burden, a guy that can work in the slot and outside. He's a archetype guy, dynamo. Donovan Jackson from Ohio State, also a tackle / guard. He can work inside, outside. He's got some long 35-inch arms. But we're going to go Kelvin Banks. But in Texas, everything's bigger in Texas. Kelvin Banks, the left tackle from Texas, goes to Houston at pick 25. I love that. All right, we're here at pick 58, and we just took our tackle, so now we can plug in guard. We'll plug in D-line, and let's plug in receiver and kind of see where we stand. Shamar Turner from Texas A&M. Vernon Broughton, that's a little bit too early for Broughton. Joshua Farmer, defensive lineman from Florida State's a good look here. Receiver, Jalen Noel. It's a good value here for Jalen Noel, I think. When you look at what Jalen Noel brings to the table, this guy had 80 reception last year. Him and Jaden Higgins both had 1,000-yard seasons for Iowa State. The first time in the Big 12, two receivers have had 1,000 yards teammates since CeeDee Lamb and Hollywood Brown at Oklahoma. So 2.62 yards per route run. That's a trait that we look at for breakouts in the NFL. And I kind of like what he brings to the table. A lot of slot work here, but a guy that can play on the outside. When you look at what Houston needs right now, Christian Kirk can kind of do both. Christian Kirk can play inside outside. I think Jalen Noel can play inside outside. And I kind of see Jalen Noel, his career outlook kind of like a Christian Kirk. So let's add Jalen Noel here in round 2 at pick 58. Houston Texans will be back on the clock here at 79 and 89. So 2 picks in the next 10. I think we need to address that guard spot first and foremost, for sure. Just add another piece in here. And then we'll also probably address the defensive line. The defensive line right now, like I talked about before, is Sheldon Rankins and Tim Settle. Behind that's Mario Edwards. Tomi Togiai, I can't remember how you say that. Togai, he was drafted last year in the 2024 NFL draft. The edge rushers, they of course just paid Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson. I think you could use a defensive tackle. I love Jordan Phillips here from Maryland. This still feels a little bit early. I'd probably wait till the 89th pick to go for Vernon Broughton, Jordan Phillips. This Deion Walker thing from Kentucky is maniacal. You take a Deion Walker and plug him into this Houston defense with D'Amico Ryans, I think you're going to be extremely happy. I've talked about Deion Walker on a number of these shows, but you add Deion Walker to a defense like this, man, if he falls here, I'm taking him. And a lot of the consensus has kind of pushed him down. Your ADP right now is 97th. This is just wrong. Deion Walker, pick 79. All right. So we've addressed D-line, we've addressed receiver, we've addressed tackle. Another place we need to address is guard and corner. We've talked about both positions already, addressing both positions already. Tate Ratledge, Jared Wilson, both from Georgia, are here right now. Both guys have played center. Both guys can play guard. Jared Wilson, for some, is viewed as the top center in the league, in the draft. Sorry. And then let's look at cornerback quick. We might just go with one of those guys. Man, I like Kobe Bryant. I'm not sure if they'll really need to press for corner. They got Stingley, they got Lassiter. I knew that, but I mean, Darby's there. I don't know if we press for corner here. I think Dorian, whoever falls to us, I pick 166. I'm not sure if many of these guys do. I like Huzzy. I like Quincy Riley from Louisville. Let's go ahead and just take the lineman here. When you look at the Houston offensive line right now, Jarrett Patterson's plugged in right now. He's a 6th-round pick in 2023 as the center. You got Juice Struggs and Titus Howard as the guards. You brought in Ingram and Tomlinson to play guard as well. I think we take the guy that looked at as the best center in the class, and Jared Wilson here, who has potential to bump out if need be. Jared Wilson, Georgia, pick 89 to play center. I love where this draft is going for Houston right now. We got 3 picks left. Pick 166. We see Vernon Broughton available right now. Running back, interesting piece here. Running back, if you look at the Houston Texans, they have Mixon. Damian Pierce feels like he's been a trade target or a cut target the last couple of years. We heard positives about Jawar Jordan after last year's draft. He was a 6th-round pick. Louisville. I'm going to look back at running back, though, because Trevor Etienne's available here. Bashal Tootin fell to the 5th. I don't think Tootin in the 5th is realistic. He ran a 4.32. He's going to be a guy that's gone in round 3. Trevor Etienne, though, in round 5. Trevor Etienne's a guy that came in lighter than most expected at like 205 pounds, 5'9", 205. There you go. He's the brother of Travis Etienne in the same division. I'm going to go Etienne here because Etienne runs harder than his listed weight. Trevor Etienne behind Joe Mixon. Chef's kiss. Sign me up. I think you guys in Houston are going to love getting yourselves a little bit of that Trevor Etienne here. So we got to go corner. We have to go corner to finish this thing out. Jabbar Muhammad falls here from Oregon. He's the brother of Manny Muhammad, or cousin, sorry, of Manny Muhammad at Texas. I think Mac McWilliams is also an interesting selection. He was down there at the Senior Bowl this past year. Mac McWilliams, man, I just became a big fan of Mac McWilliams. He was dominating on the outside. He was very consistent against a strong crowd in Mobile. Let's go Mac McWilliams, UCF. And with the last selection here at pick 241, we got a couple of options. Do you want to go receiver? Do you want to go D-line? What else do we got here on our ticker? We could go back to the offensive line. I mean, we've hit offensive line twice already. Clay Webb is here in the 7th round. Let's go. Let's take Clay Webb. Let's take a little bit of a project here. Clay Webb from Jacksonville State, 6'3", 290. Former big-time recruit. He's a big-time wrestler. Clay Webb, Jacksonville State. Keep him down south. I like this. Let's put him in. I don't know a ton about Clay Webb yet. I'll get there. I'll get dialed in over the course of the next 35 days. Clay Webb, Jacksonville State, pick 241. For those keeping track on podcast, I'll read this off to you, and I'll give you the grade that PFF gave us. For those watching on YouTube, you can see the grade on the screen. Hopefully here in about 2 shakes of a bunny's tail, it'll pop up. But I absolutely love this draft that we just accomplished with the Houston Texans. Getting Kelvin Banks at left tackle with that first selection in round 1, I think accomplished a lot. You get Jalen Noel in round 2. You get Big Deion Walker in round 3. You add Trevor Etienne in round 5. This draft's not showing up for some reason on the Mock Draft Simulator app if we're watching here on YouTube. So we're going to clips past our 10-minute mark for some reason because this thing's just not deciding to show up. I wonder if it'll pop up if I click edit. Full show. All right, so we got Kelvin Banks there, pick 25. In round 2, we got Jalen Noel, pick 58. Deion Walker from Kentucky goes up at 79. We get Jared Wilson, the center from Georgia, at 89. In round 5, we're not on the clock until pick 166, where we took Trevor Etienne, the running back from Georgia. In round 6, we did not have a selection. In round 7, we had 2 with Mac McWilliams from a cornerback from UCF and a guard in Clay Webb from Jacksonville State. That is the draft. That's all 7 of the picks for the Houston Texans. Appreciate y'all. Love y'all. Tune back in. We're going through all 32 teams. Appreciate you guys. This has been the Draft Rankings.